All right. Hey, okay, yes. We are finally live. Hey guys, we are super duper excited. This is a new series that we're doing as far as with the Rebuild Challenge with Financial Freedom Friday. So we are so excited to be live in our community and just within what are we 7-8 days in the challenge. I know we put out some different assignments in there as far as engagement, but every Friday in whatever levels of the challenge, we want to bring to you guys people in our community, in our own Breathe University community that have found the resources, so to speak, and have figured out with those resources how to formulate tools to really help us be successful. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce you guys to Eva. Some of you guys seen her bio. Eva, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Let us know about your journey, and then we're also going to be available afterwards. If you have any questions, go on ahead and drop it in the comment section. And, we just want to make sure we're spending this, next 50 minutes together, that we want it to be worth your time, as well as those that are watching on the replay. So go for it, sis.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Fatai. And thanks to all the powers that be that allowed us to be here today. I know ET is doing some amazing work, especially with this whole rebuild series. Like, I just cannot wait until the upcoming months happen because I know so many people need this. And so once again, thank you, ETA. Thank you, Fatai, for allowing me to be your first Financial Freedom Friday call. Guys, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Eva Palacios. I reside in Stockton, California. And I just have a bunch of information in my head that I have learned throughout my time. Gosh, they don't teach you about finances in school, do they? I was just so blessed that right after high school, I took a couple retail jobs and somebody thought very highly of me and recruited me to work for a nonprofit financial education service. And I spent 17 years at that job because they don't teach you about businesses, right? They teach you to find a good job and stay there until you retire. And that was my game plan. But honestly, I think I stood there long enough because of the wealth of financial literacy that I was just gaining. I mean, from learning about credit cards, learning about debt management, money management, budgeting, credit reports, housing education, bankruptcy prevention, like anything under the sun about finances, I was learning it. And 17 years worth of that knowledge that I'm like, we need to empower people and we need to just share this with the world because they don't teach you these things in school. I mean, think about how many different money management topics or anything pertaining to finances did we actually learn and hold on to in school? Right? I mean, we rely on the educational system to teach us stuff, but in my opinion, they're not teaching us the important stuff in terms of life skills and things like that, but that's a whole nother level. So yeah, 7 years ago, my company goes through a merger, new CEO jumps on board and decides to lay a bunch of people off. I mean, I get it. I'm sure we've all heard of the stories when companies go through mergers, they got to cut back and unfortunately I was one of them. And they didn't just lay me off though. They gave me a choice. They gave me a choice to where, and back then I was able to work from home, living in Stockton. The office was in San Francisco. For those of you who aren't familiar with that drive time, that's a 2-hour drive in and a 3-hour drive back. And my choice was you could either stay with the company, but you have to work from the actual corporate office, or you can resign because we're eliminating all the telecommuting positions. Now, mind you, I was telecommuting for 10 years. So me being the fighter that I am, I'm like, I'm not going to let nobody bully me out of my job. So I did the commute for 3 months and it was the worst 3 months of my life. 5 hours on the road away from my family, my husband, my kids, and traffic, not to mention wear and tear on your vehicle, on your mind, on your sanity. And one day, I just had conversations with my hubby, and thank goodness for having an amazing, supportive hubby, that he was like, "What are you doing? Like, there is something out there, Thank you, Jesus. There is God telling you you don't need to be working for somebody else. Like, if this isn't a sign, I don't know what is, but this is your time to shine." So 7 years ago is when I first got introduced to Eric Thomas, and just listening to all of it, the YouTubes, the podcast, like all of it, it just really empowered me to think differently. Hang around different people, hang around people who are going to inspire and motivate you and just allow you to think differently, but most importantly, allow you to shine. So 7 years ago, I started an entrepreneurial path. And fast forward time, I like to specifically point out, in February of this year, right before COVID hit, my husband and I took a trip to Michigan, and we're a part of Extreme Execution. I've met some amazing people all throughout Breathe community. But that particular event, and for those of you who were there or probably remember my face and my crazy husband, ET really poured into us. He really poured into us, and he just said things that I needed to hear. Sometimes we're around loved ones, parents, spouses, children, and they tell us these things, but we're not really listening until a complete stranger comes on board and tells you the same thing. And all of a sudden it's a revelation. ET really poured into us that day. And that day was a very pivotal moment for us. Coming home, we prayed and we soaked in all that information, and that's where I've met some other people in the whole Extreme Execution. Shout out to my C that I needed in my entire life, right? We're all aware of the wonderful DISC assessments and how to tune into our superpower, and acknowledging that you can't do everything, but if you find the right people that do the things that you are not inclined to do and are willing to accept that, you find those C's and the S's that will help complete you. And I did. And I just thank the powers that be in this whole community, because I honestly think today we would not be here because of that community. And the reason I say that is because it was a coffee date that happened in March, that I sat with Mr. Charles McGill, our BU brother, and he was like, "Why aren't you talking about finances to people?" Because I do have other streams of income that I'm really passionate about. But he's like, "You have 17 plus years worth of information. Why aren't you giving it out to people?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, I didn't see that in myself. And sometimes it takes other people to see it in you to really make you realize that. So here we are, and I knew it was in me because a little over a year ago, I created the Empower You Financial group on Facebook, and it's a totally free public community that I created, that I just really wanted to pour into people and just drip on people about finances, helping people take control of their financial situation and empower them to really understand money and credit and all of that good stuff. Because let's be real, we need to know about finances in order for those doors to open up, in order for other people like financial institutions to not take advantage over us. So I started that group, and I talk about all kinds of things, credit scores, collections, how to deal with creditors, how to ask for help. Especially now in the season that we're in with COVID, there's so many people that are out there that are suffering, loss of income or illnesses, and they just don't, they haven't gotten financially ready for that. So within that group, I just literally teach you whatever I could teach you to empower you, because at the end of the day, we definitely all need to know that information. Now, why did I get involved? Man, this is something that we all need. And I just want to pour into people and just let them know, hey, you don't got to know it all, but you need to know some, hopefully most, financial literacy so that you can be able to achieve those goals, and really the driving force and the importance behind that. So yeah, we've got that, and then recently I just rolled out the podcast, and it's been crazy. It's been crazy because the feedback that we've been getting from the podcast has just been amazing, because I'm literally just talking about different financial topics, different experiences, and it's crazy. It's just crazy. So I'm just super awesome, and glad to be here. Fatai, questions. Is anybody asking any questions? Do you've got questions? Like, let me know, because I can keep going on and on and on.
Well, you know what? I think I do have a question. And I think a lot of times, so with the challenge and just being a part of the conference, I really see that a lot of people don't have a benchmark or like, a starting point.
Yeah.
We hear about credit, we hear about like the credit scores and stuff. And I'll tell you with mine, being a first generation American Tongan, that wasn't important. So we were living, my parents never understood it. That was part
Yeah.
of being American, or in America, you have, these are important things in order for you to gain financial wealth. So can you
Right.
talk about, like, for anybody that is really looking to, or that doesn't have any understanding or foundation of it, where did you and Will start? Like, have you guys always had an 800 really good score type of thing? You know what I mean? Like, where did it start for you guys?
Right.
And how did you guys start to build?
It's so crazy because when I got that financial job, I was 17. I was 17. He was 19. I hadn't had any credit cards or car loans or anything. So honestly, like for me, it kind of came easy only because I was surrounded by all of that information that allowed me to make those good choices. But for somebody today that, may have had that rough patch, what I really love about what you guys are doing so far on week 1 is taking inventory. Because yeah, I mean, where do you go if you're, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years on earth? I'm sure not everything has been pleasant. So it's like, okay, so where do we start? And I absolutely love how you guys have started week 1 with taking inventory. Let's look at those credit reports and let's assess, where are we? What do these things mean? And how do I get myself, out of a negative situation and turn it into a positive situation? Taking inventory of your finances, starting with jotting down all of your monthly expenses and taking inventory of what that could look like. And I think what's a real eye opener is most people have this ugly feeling about money that they don't even want to do that, because it's an eye opener. It's kind of like confirmation. Like, I don't want to pull my credit because I know it doesn't look good. Or I don't want to write down my bills because I know it's a mess. But that honestly, if we need that kick in the butt, should we say, to take inventory and really see, okay, you know what? I need to lay it all out on the table so that I know how to take the next step to get out of this situation. So for us, honestly, I don't know where we would be if it wasn't for that job that I spent all my half of my life at, because where do you learn? I know me growing up, I couldn't even tell you what kind of income bracket we were in, because parents didn't talk to me about the money they've made or the credit scores. All I knew is my dad worked at a bank for years, so he managed money really well. My mom was a worker bee. And one of the things that I was so grateful with the job is all of the information that I learned about debt management. The first thing I did was go to mom, and I'm like, Mom, like, let's look at your debt and let's see where it's at. And we helped her develop a game plan to help her aggressively pay her debt off, because when you really look at monthly payments and interest rates, we literally cut her debt so on point that we were able to help her get out of debt within 2 years. And she has not been in debt in over 20 years.
Wow.
So, where do they teach us these things? I mean, I
Yeah.
couldn't rely on my parents, and I think that right there is also a little bit of a hurdle, because if you're not in the right environment, and unless your parents, know how to manage money, where can you go?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that's my thing. Like, so you said at 17 years old, you started that job, and then like it's almost like you were in the right environment.
Absolutely.
You were positioned in the right environment. So like in your family though, like how in your own your family is not with Will, but was who else was talking about money? Okay. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like,
No one's talking about money. And when you really think about it, try to sit back for a moment and think, what kind of conversations are our siblings, our family, our neighbors, what conversations are actually taking place?
mhm,
Nothing about money. Like, everybody can talk about crazy, uncomfortable topics, but nobody wants
right,
to talk about money
yeah.
unless you're really good with money. If you're really good with money or credit or finances, then I'm very comfortable in talking about it. But growing up, I don't remember anyone talking about anything related
So
to money.
you're really setting the standard. So let me ask you a
Yeah.
question, because week one, we're talking about pulling our FICO scores and, really looking at it. You know me, I'm all about transparency. And for you to be in the position that you're at, even within your company, if you're comfortable sharing it, like what was your lowest score to what your score is now?
So,
If you're comfortable. I'm sorry.
oh, absolutely. I'm totally comfortable. Like, need me to post some screenshots? No.
Well, you
um,
don't need that. No, I'm kidding.
so, so because I was 17, I literally got my first credit card off of a cork board in college while I was also working. And I will never forget, it was a Capital One. Like we all know, Capital One helps you build credit.
Mhm.
And that was my first credit card. And I just applied for it because at the time, I'm like, okay, credit cards. I think we need these. So let's just do it. Not until after I applied for the thing that I'm like, 24.9% interest. What does that mean? So I literally was raised at my job learning about all of that. So I mean, I couldn't even tell you like way back when. So here's the thing. If you have no credit and you start building credit, you're automatically going to be in the 600s. You're going to be in the good credit category versus somebody who, may leave an unpaid utility bill, an unpaid something, and now it dings the credit report because you're in collections. When a negative item hits the collections, you're in the not so pretty category, which is under a 600. So when you start out fresh, clean slate, and you start opening up credit, you're going to be in the good credit category. Now it's up to you to maintain that score. So if I were to guess, yeah, I was in the 600s because and thank you, Jesus, to the power of the bees. I've never had a collection account on my credit report. I've never had a 30-day late on my credit report because I knew what those ramifications were should that happen. And today, I mean, our credit scores are over 800. And because of my job and that knowledge,
What did you say? Over 800 that exists?
yeah, I know, right? The FICO score goes up to an 850, and I'm like at an 823 or something like that. Like,
Oh
it's
my
crazy.
Lanta.
And
Over
by default, Will's the same way because he don't got no choice. No.
Oh, yeah, he has no choice. Listen, you guys, Ray and I had an opportunity to go to Stockton, and on our way back from the Bay Area, we stopped by there and we got to go to the Palacios Palace.
Aw.
Their beautiful home, and it was like we went to the backyard and to see the pool, and just like the different things that you guys installed, and then to hear it, on the front end though, like understanding how important credit is. And for some, like for us to be able to walk in and to see that, it's like, wow, it does make sense as far as what you're talking about, building the credit to being able to be at the kind of lifestyle that you want. Can you tell us, like, you talked about percentage, right, with credit cards and all of that. Can you dig a little bit more with the credit card percentage and even with getting loans and all of that? Where would somebody start if you're at a 600 credit score and you're trying to rebuild the credit?
Right.
What are some tips that you can give as far as rebuilding the credit?
Absolutely. Or even how to get that 600 to a 700, because 700 in the credit world is considered excellent credit. So that's where at least, that's the bar that we need to all be shooting for. And granted, 850 is the max score, but I tell people like 850 is going to come. But once you're 700, it don't matter if you're 700, 750, 800, 850, you are all categorized as excellent credit. So don't try to like lose sleep trying to get to that 850. It will happen. Once you're in the 700s, it's going to happen. So, what needs to happen to get you from the 600s to the 700 clubs? Number one, obviously, we all know this. Make payments on time every time. The credit score is going to focus on the last 2 years of payment history. So if you pull your credit report today, back 24 months, are there any 30, 60, 90s, 120s, 180-day lates? And are there any unpaid collections or charge offs? If so, all of that is factored into payment history. And the payment history category on your credit score is worth 35%. That's the biggest piece of the pie. Now, I'll tell you this, even though the credit score or the credit reports are there to show 7 to 10 years worth of negatives, credit score doesn't care what happened 3, 4, 5 years ago. It cares about the last 2 years. So sometimes people are so afraid to look at their credit score because they're like, oh no, it's a mess. I don't even want to know. Like, do not confirm how messy it is. And then when I go over people's credit reports, they're like, oh my God, like I thought it was worse
Hmm.
than what it really is. And it's like, yeah, because we're all trying to get to that 700 that you don't realize it takes this much to get there. Let's get you that information.
I'm so embarrassed, Eva. You said this much to get there, and it's like it's
It
crazy.
feels like it's this
A
much.
lot, yeah. It does feel like a lot because we're scared of it, you know.
Yeah.
And let
Well,
me
because you don't know.
yeah, and when you don't know it, you keep doing more damage. And this, for example, some of those bad habits that I've picked up as far as like even if I had 10, $15, what how I use it,
Yeah.
versus knowing if it was just this simple bill, if I were to make a payment arrangement with it, you know, we could be able to get here. And you said 2 years. Wait, talk a little bit about that again.
Yes, right, right. Don't
Right
let
now,
that
I'm
3-year-old
tripping out.
30-day late let you not sleep at night. 2 years. So let's just pretend. Let's pretend you were late 6 months ago. That's affecting your credit score.
Oh,
As you rebuild, meaning make payments on time, that delinquency becomes older. The
hmm.
older it becomes, the less it affects the score.
The
And
older, hold on, wait, stop right there.
a
The older it becomes, the less it affects your score.
in terms of late payments on open active accounts.
Wow.
So if you have a credit card or a car loan or a mortgage and you're late, how do you rebuild? You start making on time payments again. And
Wow.
every single month you pay on time, that delinquency becomes older. And the older it becomes, the less it affects your score. And once it hits a 2-year mark, it no longer affects the score. So
We
there's light at the end
oh,
of the tunnel. It's going to
there
take some
is.
time, but there's light.
There is, and those are the things, the misconceptions or the
Yeah.
stigma of credit building that I feel like a lot of America doesn't understand. Like I
No.
was like, oh, it's gonna take 7 years to come off. So I'm just thinking 7 years means that it's gonna just look bad, period.
Nope.
Period.
Nope.
So okay, I
Mhm.
can't believe this. I hope you guys are getting breakthrough. Listen, rebuild. You guys make those payments 6 months.
Yeah.
This is how it's gonna work. So tell us, how do those points accumulate then? Because I'm on Credit Karma, and whenever I go to refresh, okay, talk to me, sister, because I saw you shake your head.
Okay, so Credit Karma is an awesome free tool, but there's certain things that you want to look at and not look at. So
Uh-oh.
Credit Karma gives you two credit bureaus, Equifax and TransUnion. You are missing Experian. And if you're in California, if you're on the West Coast, Experian is the one that's most frequently used out here.
Good to know.
So you are missing the biggest piece of the puzzle here when you're looking at Credit Karma. So Credit Karma gives you two bureaus, not all three. Credit Karma gives you a credit score, but it's not a FICO score. A FICO score, which is Fair Isaac and Company, that score is used by the financial institutions, and it's a different rating system. It looks at things differently and it calculates them differently. So people who are on Credit Karma, your scores can be anywhere between 50 to 100 points off.
Oh
you could be looking like a 700, but you're really a 600.
Oh, mercy.
Yes. So my favorite is Experian.com. Experian gives you the Experian FICO score for free. You can sign up for a trial, and sometimes it's a 7-day trial, sometimes it's a 30-day trial. I don't know, when is when. But if you sign up for the free trial, you'll get all three credit bureaus with FICO scores.
Wow. With all three?
All three.
Oh my God. Hold on real quick. Somebody in the chat, guys. My C is not wanting to work with me right now because my D is catching this information. I need somebody to please engage. We need to put her in the information. She's blessing us. She is blessing us, and just put it in the chat, this information that she's putting it. I know it's going to be available for replay, but this is really important for us to capture, and we're going to share with you guys afterwards her handles so you guys know how to get in touch with her. Keep going. Sorry.
Yes. So with Experian, you can get all three reports with FICO scores for free as long as you cancel before that trial ends. Now, if you want to keep the service going, I believe it's like $24.99 or $29.99. If you're financially strapped and you can't afford that, just cancel the service. I tell people this: credit scores are important when you're about to make a purchase. When you're about to go shopping for that car or buy that house, that's when scores are important. So you don't really need to pay for the monitoring service unless you want to keep tabs on things because you're very calculative. When things change, you want to see your scores change. If you want just updates and notifications when things get paid off or you dispute something and it gets removed, that's when you use Credit Karma. Credit Karma is great for notifications and alerts.
Okay.
That's what you use Credit Karma for, notifications and alerts. Once you know, okay, you know what, my credit is where it should be, then you go to Experian and get the FICO scores. Pay for those over there.
Okay, let me dummy it down because I'm really like, read credit book for dummies. That's who I am. So
girl, you don't need that. You got me.
Thank you. So Credit Karma is just to like the maintenance to keep up with it, but to get the factuals, you have to go like you need Experian and all of those different ones. Those are the factuals one.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Oh, good. Okay, we do have a question. We have a question. Let's see here. Latoria has a question. She's asking, do you have any tips on ways to talk about money with children so that they'll grow up knowledgeable and comfortable with talking about finances? That's a good question.
That's a great question. Girl. All I can say is surround yourself with the network of people that are going to empower you to take your finances to the next level so that our children can be surrounded amongst that community too. And the Rebuild series, ET. I mean, I don't know where he plans on going, but I kind of think I know where he's going with that.
Right.
Books, financial books are good, audiobooks, but here I kind of know where Latoya is coming with this, because we all know our kids don't always listen to the parents, right? It's kind of like we don't listen to our parents or our spouses, but we'll listen to a stranger. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to expose your children to that environment. And
Yes.
especially now, kids are on social media. Like, granted, my kids, they hear me talking all day, so they are, they're picking it up. They're picking it up. And of course, they got mom and dad regulating too at the same time. But for example, in my Empower You group, I have parents that are adding their children to the group so that they kind of just let me be the teacher, let me pour into them. And I talked, like, recently this week, I talked about and I praised our 19-year-old son who got approved as his first credit card with American Express.
What?
American Express is
They're
the hardest.
Yeah. 19 years old?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Well, I mean, okay, I know, right? Let us know. Like, how did that? Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing. Right. So here's the thing. You may have people who have bad credit because of negative things that are on there, trying to build credit.
Oh, okay.
And then you have those young adults who have no credit. So you go try to apply for something, and chances are you're going to get turned down, because you need to understand different criteria that creditors look for. And sometimes, as a new credit person with zero credit on your credit report, I tell people this: your credit report is your financial report card. If there's nothing on it, banks are going to be like, I don't know how you manage money. The credit report is the financial report card that tells financial institutions how well you manage money and what level of risk you are.
Oh.
So what we did for our son is, because I kind of know the game.
No, you don't kind of. Knock it off. Know the game.
So I added him on as an authorized user.
Oh, okay.
To my American Express.
That's good.
And I did that when he was 17.
Wow.
See, what people don't realize is, yeah, you got to be 18 to enter a legal contract. But as a parent, depending upon who your credit cards are, there's some credit card companies that will allow you to add them on as an authorized user as young as 13 years old. American Express is one of them. American Express goes as young as 13 years old. Discover goes as young as 16 years old. I don't know who else does what, because that's who I have. Everybody else is 18, I think.
Oh my gosh, Latoya, Michelle, can you guys capture that, please? So you're telling me that once Cheva turns 13 years old, I can put him on. So can you talk a little bit about that then? Because I know I've heard of that, where, you can put people on your accounts to help them out. Does that really boost up other people's credit score? Can you talk a little bit about that, how that works? Girl.
Yes. It's like, is this legal?
Yes, exactly.
Actually, it is. Back in the day when credit was first created, they just offered benefits. And back in the day, it was viewed at one point. Today, people are like, I don't know, it sounds too good to be true. But no, today, absolutely. What happens is, and again, it all depends on who your credit card companies are. So if you're thinking about adding children, you can probably go online and click add authorized user, and then it'll tell you what the guidelines are. So that's how I know, because I know what all of my creditors do. And when you get good at finances, you're going to know who does what and all of that good stuff. So I learned very early on that, okay, it's called piggybacking, where you add somebody onto your account. But disclosure, you have to be very careful and know the reason why you're doing it. Because I know people are already thinking, I got bad credit, I'm just going to have mom add me on and we're good.
Right.
Doesn't work like that.
Good
Doesn't
to
work
know.
like that. But to answer your question, yeah, if you add that person on as an authorized user, your account pops up on their credit report, good or bad. So you got to be very careful with what accounts you are adding people onto. And you can't just add it on for strangers. I mean, technically you can, but you're not supposed to. You got to be very careful with that, because some creditors will only allow 3 authorized user per account. Some do 5. Some don't even give you a limit. But if you're abusing it, guess what? They're going to shut your card off, because they're knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So long story short, it has to be picture perfect. The picture perfect is your longest account that you've had open for. The more history, the more positive that account is, meaning longest account, no late payments. And what people don't realize, that balance needs to be 0. Because the second factor that your credit score is looking at is how you use your credit cards, how you use revolving accounts, anything that gives you a limit, credit card, store card, line of credit. If your balances are more than 30% of those limits, your scores drop. So if you know, thinking, oh, you know, I'm just going to add my kids to all these accounts, perfect payment history, longest account, major credit card, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, major credit card, and that balance needs to, at the very least, be under 30%, but 0 balance is best, because when your balances are 0, your score rises. The closer they are to 0, the more points you get.
Okay. So then, because I just see things popping up right now on the comment. So, and then if you can answer this, and I'll go back and ask more questions. So then I just want to make sure I understand this. So if I can add somebody, and it doesn't have to be Chaba, as an authorized user, but I can ask them to cut up the card if they're just using, right? Is that typically how it works?
Yeah. So right. Oh my gosh, I'm adding these people. Like, what is going on? Are they going to have access to my stuff? So here's how it works. In order to add somebody on as an authorized user, you need their info, their name, date of birth, social. It's going to also ask you, do you want a credit card to be mailed? You can choose no, or if you choose yes, and some credit card companies automatically send you a card, you, as the original account holder, you get that card. So that person is never in possession of your card unless you physically give it to them.
Okay.
So in terms of, Eva, like, what's like, what am I liable for?
Right.
As long as you're in possession of that card, they won't even have access to your account. If they called the creditor, they're going to be like, you're an authorized user. You don't have permission. What an authorized user means is they have permission to swipe the card, but you, as the original account holder, are liable 100% for the charges.
Oh, my.
So you got to be careful. Yeah. So you can add him on, keep the card, cut up the card.
Yeah.
He won't charge. It's just building his credit.
Okay. So then along that line, so then we have to be careful, the people that we're adding on, because their like financial report card, could it impact mine if I was looking? Okay, so it doesn't impact it.
So the other person's credit report will not affect your credit report. Your account affects them because you're adding them onto your account.
Wow. Okay.
So however you manage your account is how that credit report is going to look.
Oh, okay. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. I'm sorry guys. I'm being so selfish. I'm hogging up all the time. Okay, let me go to these questions. Okay, we got Eric Gomez. If I have a charge off for a credit card, does that also take 2 years to come off?
Great question. So, with regards to an unpaid charge off, so let's clarify. If it is a zero balanced account that was a charge off, as soon as that balance turns to zero, it's not going to affect that credit score.
Hmm.
As long as the balance is unpaid charge off, don't matter how old that account is. If that account is 5 years old, as long as it's unpaid, it's going to weigh down that credit score.
Wow.
So you got to really, one, sit with someone to see the entire credit report to help you determine how to best tackle that account. Because yes, as long as it's unpaid, it's going to weigh down your score, but there's other moving parts you need to take account for. Number one, is it close to being 7 years old to where when it hits 7 years, I don't know, 6 months from now, you can just get it deleted?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it 3 years old and you got 4 years to wait before it gets deleted, but you're trying to buy a house? We need to take care of that balance.
Wow. Okay.
But there's other strategies when it comes to taking care of that balance, because things that you want to know are some laws that protect you as a consumer, like the statute of limitations on debt collections.
Wow. You're taking us to school, sis.
Yeah. So,
Okay, I
yeah.
hope that answered the question, Eric. And again, we're gonna Charles is actually in there. Charles, if you can drop ways of how our community can get involved, get in contact with Eva as well. Um, they're okay. Are you ready for this next question? Because it's a paragraph.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This question is from Jiggy. She was our lioness of the week.
Woo!
Um, Okay, she has a question, request for guidance, or your thoughts. And
Okay.
maybe Jiggy, you're probably gonna have to contact directly if you have to go into detail with this. She's saying, I'm in a position where I have to put money into building my business, or I could be paying off some of the debt I have in larger portions. My current credit score is on the higher end of good. I'm processing it as it is. I will put money into building my business and pay just the minimum due on the debt for now. And later down the road, when I'm more wealthy, I could pay my debt off entirely because credit scores can always be built. Is this an immature way of going about it, or is this a healthy route? Man, I need a drink.
Woo! Wait, let's go. Okay, so one, definitely need more of a bigger picture, but things to consider when doing that. What is it costing you in interest to keep that debt alive? Because yes, if you've got money, but you're building a business, which in turn is going to bring you more money, excellent. But what is it costing you to have that debt? And that's, one, financial assessment session would be great for you. But number two, if you're leaning towards, I really want to build my business, I'm going to pay minimum payments over here, then I would strongly suggest getting on the phone with those creditors and see if you can get them to lower your interest rates.
I didn't
So
know you can
that,
do that.
oh,
You can ask
yes,
them that? You can
absolutely.
Okay, I never knew that.
Especially now with COVID.
Oh,
Even if you haven't been impacted, my hours have been cut.
oh
Can you
my
lower
God.
my interest rate?
Okay, I
If you
definitely have to watch this again.
if you've been late with your payments and you got a late fee, my hours have been cut. Can you one time courtesy remove this late fee? Those late fees add up. $29, $35, 5 accounts. It can get ugly. So for you or for anyone out there, absolutely you better be calling your creditors and getting those interest rates lowered. Another possible solution, depending upon what that credit score is looking like and what all of your finances look like, if your creditors aren't being receptive to lowering your interest rates, Do you have an open account with a zero balance that you can do a balance transfer on at a 0% interest rate, or at a really low introductory rate? Because usually how those works is you've got either 12 to 18 months worth of a 0% or a 1.99 or a 2.99 on a balance transfer. And now in essence, you kind of got a cushion to build your business for a year and still make payments on your debt, but knowing that that minimum payment is going more towards the balance than the interest.
Oh my gosh. Are you guys catching this? This kind of stuff, this is the value of our community. This is the value of Breathe University, is that, like E said, we eat our own dog food. You know, we're in the community we build, and we're building those relationships. And this is what it's all about. I have one more question for you, Eva, and then you can talk a little bit more how we can get in contact with you. And this is a really good question because I see all these advertisements a lot on TV, like hiring credit repair people. And so this is Minister Rodney's question: is it wise to use a credit repair company?
Great question, because that's all you could be seeing right now is credit repair companies. And I will never, ever knock anybody's business. At the end of the day, you got to do your research. I always recommend, if you're going to work with a company, find somebody who's used them and has a success story. Because just because you see it on TV, just because you see it in a pop-up, a sponsored ad, whatever, you don't really know who they are.
Right.
Number one. Number two, you can always do the things that other people can do for you, but you would do it for free. So you just really need to sit with somebody who is unbiased, somebody who is educated, to look at your credit report and really tell you how it is and whether or not you need a repair service to clean it up. Now, granted, I'm not a landscaper,
right?
But I can lay out some grass if I wanted to go on YouTube and figure it out. The question is time versus money.
Right.
Right now, a lot of people have time. So now more than ever, if you have time, deep dive into your credit reports, become educated. Hey, feel free to reach out to me. I can give you a consultation. But most importantly, understand, like, do you really need that service? There's a lot of companies that are out there. You pay them X amount of dollars to get started. Month to month, you're paying for a service. They tell you, we're going to wipe everything out. Most people who come to me have been with the other guys for a year, 2 years, no results, wasting and spending money, wasting time, spending money, and at the end, no results.
Right.
Because let's be frank, we're busy in our lives. We're like, okay, they're taking care of it, out of sight, out of mind. I can go on with my life and know that in a year, my credit will be good. There are people in my Empower You financial group that sit with me for an hour and I go through their credit reports and I literally am coaching them on what to do. And in 30 to 60 days, they're seeing results in their scores.
Wow.
It's all about information. Now, granted, if you have a lot of unpaid debts, and you're thinking a credit repair company can just go out there and wipe it all out, there are laws that protect the creditors. There are laws that the credit bureaus have, and then there are consumer laws and rights that you have. So credit repair isn't for everybody. It does work for some people, but not for everyone. So you call the credit repair company, they're going to sing in your ear and give you all that you want to hear. But you need to speak with somebody who's going to tell you, like, do you really need them or can you do this yourself?
Right. Man, that's so good, Eva. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. This has been super duper valuable. And
we're already in an hour. Oh my gosh.
It's getting there. And you know what? And I think this is the beautiful thing. It's like everything that we do, even within BU, you know, there's always an investment that we're making. Yes. And for you, you know, being a part of the community, we know that you made a huge investment with yourself, with your family, to be able to get to where you guys are at, to be able to add this kind of value to the community.
Yes.
So I'm telling us right now, as we are rebuilding our finances, we're pulling our scores and we're looking at it, make that investment within yourself to sit down, look at your scores. If you don't get it, Eva's here. She's
Yeah.
letting us know. She's offering even her consultation to let us know about your handles so we know how to get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So, website is evaempowers.com. You can definitely subscribe to the podcast there, but most importantly, you can book your credit consultation online with me. As soon as you press the book me appointment button, it'll lay out all the instructions on how you can get your free credit reports, how to set up a session with me. And we do our sessions just like this via Zoom. I share screen, we go through your credit reports, we can do it over the phone. And yeah, so evaempowers.com. Or, of course, you can find me on Facebook, Eva Palacios. I think Charles is probably doing a really good job at throwing those handles in there. So thank you, Mahasi,
I
for
know,
hooking
right?
me up. But yeah, information is out there. You just got to get with the right people to
Right.
get the right information that's going to fit you. And sis, we only talked about one of the 5 factors that factor into your credit score. So you guys still need to know the other 4 to
Wow.
get you in that 700 plus score.
Wow. You guys, that was only one of them.
Only
Let's,
one.
who knows? We probably have to come back, resurface on this, but I really appreciate your time, and the wealth of information that you poured in. And family,
Absolutely.
if you guys felt like this was like really, really a personal deep dive type of thing, make sure you guys get in contact. Again, this is really all about rebuilding our finances and making sure that we're taking our families, our business,
Yes.
everybody else to the next level. So we're doing this all together. I thank you
Absolutely.
guys so much. Next week, let me tell you guys, next week, we got Terrell Muhammad out from the Bay Area. He's going to be coming on live and talking to us as well about his journey. So thank you guys so much, and we'll tune in next week. Thank you,
Thank
Eva.
you.